I'm 38 female and I live with my husband and our 4-year-old son. We decided that we want to live off grid about a year after our son was born. The world's been going in a weird direction, and cutting ourselves off from it seemed like a good idea at the time. We bought a small house in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. Apart from the story I'm about to tell you, we loved every second of it. We have a family dairy cow that produces a lot of milk, about 6 to 7 gallons a day, which is way more than a family of 3 can drink. More than anyone can drink in a day, actually. But where we live, people love to drink raw, unprocessed milk. But with the excess milk that we constantly had, my husband suggested that we post a Craigslist ad to barter our milk. You know, trade the milk for other items we may need or want, like fresh fruits and veggies or farm equipment. We figured it couldn't hurt, and it would be fun to meet new like minded people in the process. We posted our ad, and we didn't get any responses for a while. I started to feel a little defeated about the whole thing, and that's when I got an email from a woman named Christina. She told me that she absolutely would love to trade for some milk, and I wouldn't lie when I say that I was a little excited too. We emailed back and forth for a couple of days, and she told me that she grew organic berries that she would want to trade. I thought everything was going great until she suddenly stopped emailing me back. I emailed her again 4 days later to ask if she got my emails, but again, I got no response. It was like she was ignoring me on purpose. But my husband told me that sometimes people get busy and I shouldn't take it personally. So I didn't. I moved on and continued to wait for another person to see the ad. Over a week and a half later, I finally got a response from Christina. She was angry that I had emailed her in the middle of the night, and it was my fault that she hadn't seen it. She said that it was very irresponsible of me to email so late and that it wasn't a good way to run a business. I was shocked. I looked through my previous emails to her and was confused when I saw that, in fact, I hadn't emailed her in the middle of the night, but in the afternoon. And I didn't understand her comment about this not being a good way to run a business because I wasn't running a business. It was a Craigslist ad. I chose not to respond to her because of her obvious problem with me and her incapability to take responsibility for her own actions. Thought ignoring her would have meant that I'd be done with the situation. Instead, she continued to email me multiple times a day for the next 2 days, reminding me of her emails and telling me to email her back. Finally, 2 days later, she wrote me once again, this time saying something that genuinely terrified me. She said that she was tired of me ghosting her. She was offended and was very angry I would do that to a sweet old lady like her. And if I wasn't going to give her the milk, she was going to take it herself? I didn't understand what she meant by that. Was she going to find where we lived and milk our cow? I showed my husband and we laughed about it together. And again, I didn't email her back. Why would I? Clearly, this woman had some serious issues. That night, we heard rustling outside the house, but that wasn't something that we weren't used to. There were lots of animals in the area that weren't afraid to get close to the house. Our son came into our room really early in the morning and swore to us that he was hearing footsteps outside the window. My husband and I tried to reassure him that it was probably just a deer, but he was sure that it sounded like a person or a monster walking back and forth just outside his window. He was scared. So we let him sleep in our bed until it was time to wake up. That morning, my husband went outside to check for footsteps, and to our surprise, he actually found some. However, it was a very small size shoe and definitely was pacing all night based on the deep footprints that went back and forth in the mud outside his window. It's pretty strange seeing footsteps outside our house that aren't ours. We lived so far outside the town and owned the property. My husband searched the forest surrounding our house but found nothing. When I went out to milk our cow, I was horrified to find her covered in black spray paint. Her bag was littered with it. When my husband came out to help me, he was just as shook as I was. I still had to milk her though, and honestly, I felt a little bad doing it. Cows are very sensitive animals, and I could tell she was scared and probably in shock just as much as we were. Only when I went to milk her and I was massaging her udder, I noticed her back seemed a little small, almost like how it feels after being milked. Then, when I went to clear her teeth out of the first few squeezes of milk, there was almost nothing coming out. Someone had literally milked her sometime throughout the night, also spray painted her back. I thought back to the crazy email the woman had left, and I knew it had to be her. We knew no one else would do something like this. While my husband and I were trying to clean her up, we heard our son screaming from inside the house. We both dropped everything we were doing, and when we got inside, we saw a jug of milk on the counter and muddy footprints leading to our son's room. We rushed to his bedroom, and when we looked inside, we saw a woman sitting on our son's bed with him on her lap. She was holding him tightly, smiling at us with this eerily emotionless look on her face, with him squirmed in her grasp. I was going to tell her to let him go, but my husband had other plans. He'd always been the no nonsense kind of guy, so he just walked right up to her and punched her in the face. She let go of our son as she covered her nose with her hand, and my husband took the opportunity to grab him and pull him away from her. He grabbed my arm on the way out, let us out of the house, and put us in his truck and locked it. He went back inside, and the next thing I knew, he was physically carrying the woman out of the house and forcing her to sit on the porch. And every time she tried to get up, he just shoved her right back down. She was no match for him and made sure that there was no way she's leaving. I had already called the police the second we were in the truck, and when they arrived 30 minutes later while we waited for them, the woman only said one thing: "You shouldn't have ignored me."